I'm Red Beard the Hippy here with two of the members from Absent Saint. So we'll have you guys go ahead and introduce yourself so I don't screw up the names.
All right. I'm Mike Santee. I play guitar, I sing, I rap. Yeah.
I'm Robert. You don't know who I am, Elledge, and I do what he doesn't do.
These are former members of Ephemeris, even though I don't think I said that right any of the times, and you guys gave me like a little cue card.
How do you actually say that?
Ephemeris.
Ephemeris, there we go.
But like when he said it in the thing, I was like, you know what, America sounds so much cooler.
And former, oh shit, you just said the name before.
Season Adrift.
Season Adrift,
yes.
So we've got multiple bands references that they've been in. So
And we got Dan, who's not here.
He's right here. He just
Dan
lost a little weight.
Dan was
he's sleeping behind the couch.
Dan was too drunk to show up. Full disclosure.
Yeah, full disclosure.
Full disclosure. He's
Plus
an old musty bastards.
Yep.
That right there, him being an old musty bastard, should explain enough on why a Saturday night he's drunk.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's the bastard of Old Musty Bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because oh god, what is his name? I'm gonna feel horrible.
Eric or James?
Eric is definitely the old one in the group.
Well, James isn't too musty, so I don't know.
Well, it depends on how musty it is after one of their sets.
That's true.
He gets a little musty because he's the drummer.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, like I did a birthday bash before we did the Peerless show, I think.
Yeah.
Was that 2 years ago?
Gosh. I think it was, about a year ago.
Only band I ever played with, I threw a birthday bash in Smullen, Kansas. Only band I ever played with that had strippers show up and throw money at them on the stage.
Why is that?
I've never heard that story. Oh
the legend of the old musty bastards and Eric is just gonna keep going up.
So he's the one that does pro wrestling too, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember talking to him after the show, and he was telling me he's a wrestler too. I'm like, that's cool.
Oh, he is. He wears a luchador mask.
Yeah, and an actor.
And an actor.
He's an actor too. Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
I want to find some of his stuff
Strip club
on.
bouncer as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I believe that one.
And a professional alcoholic.
Yes, definitely.
He's not one of those amateur people. He will drink all damn day and be like, all right, we're getting on stage now. It'd be perfectly fine to get up there, and I will watch him just down in drinks of whiskey, and it's, oh, Jesus.
Wow.
So let's go ahead and get out the question. How did you guys form?
Bathroom stall and number wrote down. I was like, you know what? I'm going to see how this goes. No, we actually...
Damn it, I was going to call that number too. That was at the Casey's down the street, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was.
I thought so.
Yep. Shout out to big old Susie. But yeah, we actually did a show together with Old Musty and Season Adrift. And we vibed pretty well, all three of us together. And I seen kind of Ephemeris kind of veering off, and I was like, you know what? I got some ideas that are fun to play. I know he's having the same issue I am, so Facebook messaged him, and he was down. I showed him the riffs, and he's like, oh fuck yeah, I already got a melody for that and everything.
Yeah. See, we were in a spot with Season Adrift where our bass player had actually moved to Kansas City, and he was an intricate part of the band. And then our original vocalist had also quit, and we were kind of slowing down. We were kind of in rebuild mode at that point. And so I was still looking for something to do musically, because I go crazy when I'm not doing something with music. So I've been talking with Robert quite a bit. Me and Robert became pretty good friends after we met at that show. And like I said, he bounced some riffs off. He bounced some riffs my way. And I gave him a listen, and when I heard the riff for New Reality, immediately I had an idea. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go with this. And so I think it was literally like same day he sent me that riff, I demo out some vocals on it, and he's like, oh wow, So that's how that song came together, and then we kind of kept at it, and he's like, hey, let's go and actually get some decent recordings of this.
Yeah, to be honest, like we never thought it was going to actually amount into a band. They were just bouncing ideas, you know.
Yeah.
We were just messing around, honestly.
Well, and I wouldn't say it's okay recordings. I mean, it is Bullet Ride, and that dude is on a whole...
caliber
Yes, yeah.
He's high caliber audio, so shout out to Bullet Ride, because that dude's been doing
Dustin is the man. Like,
he's been doing stuff for,
I
think, like 15 years now, and he keeps... It's always fun when I see that there's this song was done at Bullet Ride, and it's like, I'm already going, oh, I'm ready. I know what this is going to sound like. It's going to be good.
The only issue I have with Dustin is that he erases all our recordings and redoes it himself and passes it off as us.
Well,
he's very talented, yes.
Especially, like, vocally, like, word for... Probably got some, like, AI algorithm going on there.
Fucking auto-tune.
I tell you, because I'm like, wow, you actually got me to sound like I can sing. That's amazing.
As he's sitting there like, you don't have any idea. It took 8 hours of me.
See, I don't want to know, like, the work that went into making me sound like a singer, but that might ruin it for me.
Yeah, it's going to ruin a lot of people's if you ever play live.
Be like, who's this guy?
You're like, all right, we really like this. And oh, God, he sounds like Cher. Taking a cactus up the ass. Oh, jeez. It looks like Cher, too. You should take off that wig.
See, I would like to think that I sound the same live as I do on the recordings.
Or as close as you can.
You know.
Because that's one thing I know from, like, personal experiences. Like, the recordings are going to sound one way.
Yeah.
But you want it to sound as close to live.
Yeah.
But minus the thing of, like, okay, they're doing this, and they're running around doing this. And they're letting the energy flow, and they're getting into it. And there's going to be a certain part where, like, the vocal cords are like, okay, we're going into recess mode, so you're going to have to just kind of sound like shit for a while now until we get rehydrated right now.
He did one thing, like, because there's one note at the very end of New Reality that I'm, like, almost passing out holding this note. And... like, at the very end, I'm almost, like, about to gasp. And he did something really cool in the production where he kind of left that in there. But the way he did it made it sound really cool at the way I break off of that note.
You can't tell he was struggling.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's always the fun thing. Like, people that are listen to it don't have it, but, like, when... I know for me personally, listening to my own recordings, I couldn't stand listening to my own recordings because it's like, there's a breath, there's this, there's this, and I'd pick out, like, every little thing. So for you guys, how is it to listen to your own recordings?
It's a lot easier for me because I don't do anything vocal, thank God.
But you also just sit there and, like, pick apart your thing of, I didn't do this, or I should, like, I mean,
not necessarily, but there's times where, like, I could have done some more to it, but... yeah. I'm happy usually, you know, because especially with New Reality, I kind of had that fleshed out on my end for months, and to be honest, the newest part on that song for me was the bass lines, because I played bass on that song, so that's the part I nitpicked the most because I'm not a bassist. So I was like, I could have added notes there, I could have added notes there.
Yeah, vocally, I tend to be, like, really hard on myself, and I actually was not comfortable as a vocalist until this past year. Actually, how I got into doing vocals was in Season Adrift when Ben quit the band and we still had some shows coming up. I'm somebody that I hate canceling shows because people are counting on you. So I'm like, well, you know what? I am going to learn how to play and sing all of these songs because, I mean, that was our only option at that point to keep the ball rolling on the shows that we already had. And so that kind of evolved into this. But yeah, when I listen back, especially the first couple times I listen to it, I'll hear every single, like, part where I'm a little off, parts where I'm a little nasally, parts where I'm like, dude, I should have hit that note harder or laid off a little bit there. And after a while of listening to it, I just kind of get used to, you know, everything. So, I mean, the first couple takes I'm real critical, but then when I kind of get used to hearing it the way it's recorded, I'm like, alright, that's alright. Which I think that's how, like, I'd like to think that's how just a casual listener hears it at that point, you know?
And I think that's the difference between like casual listeners versus people in a band, because like I don't remember there was one song that I'd hear on the radio all the time, and there was one part I honestly don't remember who sings it, what's the song title, but I remember there was one part in it you could hear a breath, and it just drove me crazy because you could hear, and I'm like, taking a breath right there. They're like, why are you so worried about it? I was like, because you can hear him taking a breath. Like, why does that drive you nuts? Because you shouldn't hear inhales on recordings.
Sometimes it's good for dramatic effect, though.
Like a before breakdown or something.
Yeah.
Okay. But this was like mid-verse.
Yeah, mid-verse, it's not good to have those breaths in there.
And I don't... It might have been All That Remains. So if that says anything...
if he sounds like me getting out of bed in the morning, then it doesn't need to be on there.
Snap, crackle, plop. Fuck, oh crap, there goes my hip.
You know what's funny? Some of the stuff that gets into recordings when you don't have a noise gate on, so when I'm demoing out stuff that I send to Robert, there's something I'm hearing in there, and I'm like, what the heck is that in the background? Well, I had my headphones on, so I didn't hear it at the time, but it's like my dog just yapping in the other room.
He's off key.
I'm like, what the heck? So, yeah, it picks up some interesting stuff. So
that is kind of one of the fun things about trying to record, because I have neighbors, and we got somewhere in the neighborhood there is a rooster that does not exactly know how to tell time or when to shut the fuck up. So it'll be like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to record this video for this reaction review video, and
you should leave that in there. That would be an interesting dramatic effect.
I've actually had the cat a couple times. My son's cat made it into one, and it was hilarious. It jumps up on the back of my chair and is peering around my head, and it's like, so what do you think of that? Oh, really? Anything else you gotta...
So I can hear Mike breathing in the mic.
Yeah. I'm having a conversation with the cat while I'm shooting this video, and it's just like... I think that's one thing with doing the reaction review videos, and unfortunately for artists, with what I do, is a pain in the ass where it's like, have you heard this song? No, it's on the agenda today.
I try not to bug you. I know you're a busy man, so...
Well, and most everybody understands that, okay... There's the regular job, there's kids, and there's stuff like that, so you have to be able to... And then there's also those days where it's just I want to go home, and I want to lay on the couch, and just...
That's me every day anymore.
attempt to watch this movie for the 9th time that I've gotten the first 15 minutes into, and I've seen the last 10 minutes of it. I want to know what goes on in between.
Honestly, I'm to the point sometimes, I work a pretty physically demanding job, so a lot of times I get home in the evening and I have plans on, all right, I'm going to...
He calls OnlyFans hard job.
Oh, my gosh.
He's an Instagram.
That's why I love doing interviews with Robert, because Robert says just off-the-wall stuff like that. It makes me laugh.
He's an Instagram model.
Oh, my God. I wish there has to be somebody into dad moms somewhere, right?
He's a soldier on Call of Duty.
There we go. Yeah, but
I think we've hit all the stereotypes.
All the stereotypes, yeah. But I get home, so by day I'm a FedEx driver.
That's driving and picking up and carrying and moving.
Yeah,
get affecting the weather too. It's been
especially,
degrees.
And there, a couple of weeks ago I froze my ass off out there. But
that was
brutal. So I get home sometimes and I have plans on, okay, I'm going to finish this song I was working on. Robert sent me some stuff. I'm going to record vocals on it. And there's a lot of days where it's challenging to write because I get home and I'm just I am done for today.
Is it the physical part that you're exhausted with, or if the brain gets tired, it makes writing stuff?
But honestly, both. And a lot of times it's there's a lot of days I'm mentally and physically exhausted. So I'm I don't want to move. I don't want to think. I just want to chill here. And a lot of that's just, getting old too. So
if the brain isn't sharp or feeling it at that moment, you feel like you're trying to force something or rush something that might not turn out as good as you're wanting.
And I think one thing with me, how I write lyrics is I push myself so hard in my lyric writing. Like, I try to make them as interesting as possible. And, like, another thing, too, it's not just about the melody, and maybe this is something I pick up, too, from some of my hip-hop influences. Like, that verse has to have a good flow to it, as well as a good melody. And so I'm trying to rhyme. I'm trying to get the syllables just right to where it lays on top of that instrumental just perfect. And sometimes I'm slow at writing because I drive myself crazy trying to do that sometimes. So
I mean, it's like trying to come up with a riff and you just want to make it better, but you just can't hit those right notes at the moment. Just because sometimes I find it's good to take breaks, a couple of day breaks, and play guitar, and I come back and I nail it.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's the thing with it. Like, lyrically, I'm such a I try to be such a perfectionist with it, and sometimes it slows me down a little bit. So it's like, I don't want to write something just to write something, and I don't want to record.
Doing it.
Yeah, and it's like I'm either gonna go all in, or I'm not gonna do it at all.
Yeah, us indie bands don't have the luxury of having 10 writers on our songs.
No.
Well, I think that's what makes it. Well, you also got to add your own personal touch to it.
Yeah.
So you were speaking of hip hop.
Yeah.
I'm curious of who your hip hop influences are.
Oh, so it was funny. I wasn't really into hip hop. Like real hip hop. I mean, I heard some of the rock rap, but when I went to college in Lincoln, I met people from all over, and I had these guys that lived next door to me that were from South Florida. They were really into hip hop, and they introduced me to Wu-Tang Clan, and like I had not heard rhyming like that. I'm like, so the first song I ever heard that was like a real that I really listened to in depth was Triumph by Wu-Tang Clan. And Inspector Deck comes out on that first verse and just kills it with the flow and the wordplay. And I'm like, wow, this is some cool stuff. Just kind of, and I noticed too, in hip hop, how much space you have and how much more creativity you have in the bars to convey your thoughts.
Oh yeah.
And as I got more into it, I'd have to say hip-hop wise, probably my biggest influence is Lupe Fiasco. Lupe Fiasco just has some insane bars and insane wordplay. And so when I'm writing, I kind of try to use some of that intricate wordplay in what I'm doing. And I'm still learning. But yeah, that's kind of my influence for how I started getting into rapping. So.
I mean, Wu-Tang Clan was and still is on a whole different level.
Oh my gosh!
They're the stuff that they put out and the way that it flows together. It's this guy flows into this guy's style that flows into this guy's style, and it just has this. And everything is like that. It's not like one person who's speed rapping into
I was amazed how they get into these pockets and they just keep rhyming stuff, and you're like, man, this guy just keeps going and keeps finding rhymes. I remember, the first line of hearing Triumph, because Wu-Tang Forever was the first one that they showed me, and Inspector Deck comes out, he's like, a bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses can't be... I forget how it is, but it's he gets in that pocket, and it's holy crap, and he's still going rhyming words,
And he's using, and that's the fun thing when you see words that most people you can't rhyme the same words all the time because
well, yeah, and I think too being creative with the words that you rhyme, and so I know you haven't given Child's Play a listen yet. That's one you're reacting to. I'm not going to try to spoil it, but there's one line in there. That sometimes I'll hear a word that sounds really cool, that I'm like, man, I really think it would be cool to rhyme that word. And
moist.
Yeah, moist.
Because everybody loves moist.
So I was... I think I was helping my daughter with some science homework, and they were talking about centripetal acceleration, which is
Not your standard.
No. So I'm like, dude. So I'm like, centripetal is like when like you have so much force going a different direction that when you try to turn, you'll keep going forward. And I'm like, that is really cool, and that's a cool concept to rhyme.
Can you edit in the more you know?
The more you know. Yeah. So anyway, I'm like that. So anyway, it would be cool to. So the first line I came up with on that was too complex to pigeonhole, pivot. Now it's pivotal. Try to change my course, but the force is centripetal, which is basically talking about.
It's like fucking Wu-Tang.
Yeah. And so that line is basically about being in some bad habits and wanting to change your ways, but the way that you've always done things keeps pulling you in the same direction even though you're trying to make changes. So, I mean, the meaning behind that, too, fit with the word. So
I'm not going to be listening for that line, so you'll hear,
there it is.
He said the thing.
I'm trying not
to... Wu-Tang!
Absent Saints ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always kind of cool when you see, like, just finding out, like, after hearing that it's Wu-Tang, it's like, okay, that makes...
I can hear that influence with him now.
Like, there's some of those people where you're like, oh, my influences are these, and you're going, where?
Yeah.
Like, how did you bring this influence into here? Because I'm not hearing it.
You know what's interesting? Like, I also get a lot of, like, the way I play guitar... most of my influences over the years have been local musicians, if I'm being honest. Like, so I do a lot of stuff with finger tapping and kind of ambient guitar. And I'd say the guitarist that influenced me the most was seeing Zach Roach with Spirit of the Stairs. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but they were kind of a post-rock band. And then also Cody Cloud and the band Vehicles out of Wichita, and how he plays guitar. And so it's cool that, to be part of the scene, but also, the local scene inspired me and shaped who I am as a musician, too.
There's a lot of really good musicians in all the local scenes.
Yes, there is.
Like, I know it's just on Facebook. I don't make it down to Wichita much, but seeing all the bands that are popping out on stuff and having different things. Like
Wichita has... I mean, especially, like, right now, Wichita's metal scene is just amazing. You got, like, bands like Hourglass is amazing. Like, they're, if there's a band out of Wichita in metal, it's going to go like, they're, like, on another level. Just their sound, their stage presence.
As good as they are, they're even better dudes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've
definitely love those guys.
They were one of the first interviews that I actually did, and I was down there for, like, I hit 3 shows in 2 days, and I ended up interviewing them, and it was a really fun time.
So Hourglass, like, the first time I actually met those guys, and I'll tell a story about them, what awesome dudes they are. Like, this was one of our first shows. They'd been around for a little bit, and we were playing Monica House down there in Wichita. And they already had quite a bit of a following. Not a lot of people knew who Season Adrift was. So we get on stage, and there's a lot of bands out there that will leave after they play and not support the other band.
Oh,
that
pisses me off.
Yeah, because we've had that experience. So Hourglass not only comes in, they get right in the front, and they start, like, a mosh pit during our set, and they're, like, our biggest hype men there. And it's like, dude, these guys are awesome. Like, if every band in the scene was like this and supported other bands like this, the scene would be awesome.
That's how the guys in Tree Kitty are from Hays, Kansas.
Yeah. Oh, those guys are nuts. I watched the drummer play. I think he still had a calf in. Like, he just had some kind of surgery and was still calfed up and went out and did a set. Those guys are nuts, but they're great dudes.
I've actually never seen them, but I'll have to check them out when they come. I think they play Kirby's quite a bit.
They're I call them a vibe style music, like what them
groove and
like them and Illyria. They just have this, like, vibing, feel good. Mm-hmm. Well, lyrics are a little bit darker. but they just have that, like, you can just sit there and your head nods, and you just you're gonna have a good time with it. Kind of like, Esper Winds is in that group too.
Oh, another great people, another great band.
Oh yeah, and they're all young as hell too. That was.
And I wish I could play guitar like Bo. Bo can shred that guitar.
Bo knows guitar.
Yeah.
Bo also has that cool Coheed and Cambria hairstyle. So
yeah, Bo and Cambria.
You can't miss him.
No, and like their drummer too. Like it's the funniest group because Bo has this afro. Andrew is quiet as hell and just is kind of. He looks like he's just there.
Yeah.
But he's a hell of a great. He's getting a lot better. Like there's way more movement on his stage presence, and I've really noticed that. And then like the drummer's goth. Like they're completely.
And she is such a good technical drummer too. Like I'm sure you've seen them too. Like they cover the song Black Betty. And that song is a super hard technical song, like rhythm wise. And they kill it. Like
she also performs in like 4 to 6 inch platform shoes
too.
So. But yeah, and then like you were saying in the Wichita area, like there are so many bands that are down there that are.
Dude, and like another Atria. Atria Given is out of Wichita.
Done review videos for both of those
guys.
I've seen Atria. Those guys are. And there's like Sunset
Hotel, and then you got like another band that kind of does the rap rock thing for the Birds. They're out of Wichita.
That's more like a reggae too, aren't they? Reggae rap rock type.
You know, they're a very cool fusion.
Yeah, I love
it. Of like a lot of stuff.
There's bands that I like to seeing on the scene where it's like. Okay, this band can be on this bill, or this bill. Those don't even match. I know, but they can fit with it.
They can do it all. So
because there's a band out of the Lincoln area, the Dill Pickles, and they do this cover of Scooby Doo. And the moment that they're like, "We got this Scooby Doo cover," I'm instantly like grabbing my gear back out. I'm like, "I want this one." But they have this like Sublime style feel. It's just that. Cool sound where it's so unique and you don't really hear a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
But like I'm pretty sure if you put all the bands together that people say sound like this or have that feel to it, there still wouldn't be a lot of bands that have that same.
Yeah. But Wichita right now has a really solid music scene, and I don't get a chance to get out and catch as many local shows as I'd like.
Kansas in general has a pretty legit scene. Like. The bands here are sneaky good. Like you wouldn't expect it in the middle of Kansas.
Oh yeah, like and like the cool thing too is like going back and forth from both states and covering things. The Kansas scene and the music style here, is different than the music style and the scene up there. But there's still that same unity where it's bands are getting together like, hey, we heard you got this show coming up. Can we get on this one? We'll give you guys this show. And, like, everybody's supporting, which is something that years ago, like, for when I was in bands, like, trying to get into Manhattan was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Granted, Manhattan doesn't really have a music scene anymore from what I know. They got Terror Tractor, but like, Wichita, like, you had to be in with certain people to get in down there. And if you didn't have a certain sound, you weren't. But now it's everybody's trading shows and...
Well, and I notice a lot of cooperation now between bands of different genres and seeing a lot of mixed genre shows because it's like when I first started out with Season Adrift, I knew how the scene used to be kind of back in the day down there where it's like...
Death metal was death metal.
That was it, yeah.
Hardcore was hardcore.
Season Adrift was a very kind of in an odd place because we were kind of like ambient rock, alternative, that kind of style. And there's not really a lot of bands in that scene that really play that style. So,
haha, we're back.
But it was cool because we started getting put on, bands from like the metalcore bands would start putting us on their shows. Like, obviously being good friends with the guys from Hourglass, we got on the bill of some of their shows where maybe we didn't fit, but it was cool. And I think there's a lot of fans that are into lots of different styles of music. Kind of like me, I love metal, I love, just regular rock, I love hip-hop. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to see a lot of these mixed genre shows popping up now in Wichita.
I also like how, you always see the gate, and this kind of goes along with that. Like, they always had the gatekeepers, name this band and name 5 songs.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the gatekeepers have kind of been cast to the side in a sense, or thrown in trunks, or, stuck in somebody's basement, and these bands are starting to be able to, because there's been shows that I've gone to that normally I probably wouldn't go to, but because I got invited to it, I was in the area and I've hit it up, like the house parties Illyria used to throw.
Yeah.
Not normally something you'd see me at, but those are some of the funnest shows that I went to, 4 in the basement of a house party.
Yeah. That's how we met.
Exactly, and then it was Fury. Oh, who was that band? Fury and Fire? Fire and Fury. It was that band that played last that had been there all night.
Oh, Fury and Few?
Yeah.
2-man band?
Yeah.
They're fucking good.
Those guys were nuts, and it's
They actually tour nationally. They've toured with some bigger bands. I can't think of them offhand who they toured with, but they toured with some bands holy fuck, I played with these guys in a fucking basement.
And Basement Party had a blast. Went to a couple more of them. There's certain bands, if I see on a bill, it's because of the fun time I had with them. I'm usually going to try to now, I don't try to pigeonhole myself into one style. It's more I'm in the area. Who's got a show going on?
Right.
Hey, we're at this place. Cool, that's where I'm going. Why'd you go to that one? They were the first one that offered that. That's how I met the guys in Illyria. There was some birthday bash 2 hours out, and it was them, Tree Kitty, Project. They used to be some of the guys from Fractured Black. It was Project.
Oh, Room 347.
Yeah, Room. Yeah. Okay, Room 347.
We play with those guys. Those guys are awesome too.
Yeah, and it's some of the time now I'm just running into friends at shows that are hey, how do you know these people? That's my kid up there.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. No, god damn it.
Yeah, it's crazy because my daughter is turning 15 this year, and I'm man, she's the same age as I was when I started. So sometimes
I was a late bloomer. I didn't start doing instruments till my early 20s.
Yeah.
I got into a band the joke was I got into the band at 23, and they hadn't had their previous vocalist quit at 24, so they were gonna fire me when I turned 24.
It's like Leonardo DiCaprio dating as soon as she's over 25.
Gone.
Honestly, FMX was kind of the same way. Each vocalist we had 3 vocalists, and each one of them started the band when they were 20.
But yeah, some of the speaking of Esper Wins, I saw one post, and I bring it up to them all the time because I think it's hilarious, because it was that moment that I remember being 17, 18, getting into the Noise Fest shows and being backstage, kind of got pulled in by some of those guys Croup and Chewy and those guys, and they were okay, you're in this group, and it's okay, I'm not backstage, and kind of got grandfathered in, and then suddenly it's okay, I'm the young guy in the group, now I'm in the middle of the group with the age, and then all of a sudden it's I transferred into the old guy because it's she made a post on Facebook. Well, prom was all right, I guess. I mean, prom was all right, you guys.
It's weird that
she's younger than my oldest daughter.
Well, it's weird.
I am now that guy who is. There's kids in the scene younger than my kids.
See, it's weird that now some of the bands I played So we were with Season Adrift back when we were doing that. We played a show with Ivory Days out of Lincoln.
Oh, those guys are good.
Yeah.
I like
so
them.
Anyway, I'm making some conversation with them. I didn't realize how young they were, so I was telling them, "Oh yeah, you're from Lincoln. I was in Lincoln. Went to college up there." And I'm like, yeah, I was up there in 2003. And one of them's like, yeah, I wasn't born until 2004 or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am that old.
See, I have the opposite experience because I was a late bloomer with the music scene. Like, I didn't meet people in the music scene until like 2018 or so. And back when Waffle Stomp was still a thing. So maybe 2017, somewhere around there.
Oh,
and
God.
that's how I first met Sam. But like, it was actually James from
leaders.
It was actually James from Elyria. Is like, he asked how old I was. I'm like, at the time I think I was like 31. He's like, Jesus Christ, you're old. I'm like, he's like, I thought you were like 25, 26.
See, now I hear 31, and I'm like, wow, you're young.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to hit the big 4-0, so it's like.
See, I just turned 39 this week, so.
I still got 6 years to the
I'm
big
getting
4-0. So.
Well, I don't act like
yeah,
I'm.
but you know, it was good because on my birthday, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So.
Well, happy late birthday.
There we go.
Yeah, this week has been a pretty good week. I went and Chiefs won, Pantera and Lamb of God. Got to see the grandkid. Doing interviews with you guys, and I'm gonna be doing one with Forge and Fire.
Oh, send them my love. I love those guys.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Oh, first time I saw them, I like how we keep talking about local bands. First time I saw him, the vocalist, Ethan, the whole time, never once saw him take a drink of water. I'm just like, how do you do this?
Okay, my first impression of Ethan, they played with us with Ephemeris's EP release show, and it wasn't. Well, either way, we played a show with him, and they were setting up because they were doing the sound and lights. And I remember thinking, like, who's this little kid? Like, who's he with? And then see him come out and fucking rock my face off. I was like, damn, I thought he was just like some 15-year-old kid.
Really? Dude, his voice kind of really reminds me a lot of Kill Switch Engage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. Like, he really...
And he can hit those clean notes, and then he's got those growls, and then, like, I made a comment to him, like, after the first... And, I don't ever try to say, hey, you should try to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, great set. Or, like, the only time that I'll, like, critique or something is if if a band goes, hey, give us your honest opinion on what you thought. Hey, I think you spent too much time with your back to the stage. I think you could have done this well. There was a changeover here. Little things to help, not try to tear them down, but like
constructive criticism.
Yeah, or unless you're like my friend Kyle, who asked me after his set, the band Chasing Supernovas. He goes, "Dude, how do we sound? Be honest, dude. I've heard executions that sounded prettier than that." And his jaw hit the floor. The vocalist is on the ground laughing because she thought that was the funniest thing. And he goes, "I was not expecting that. Most people will sit there and be like, hey, you did a great job. Not make up some crazy shit," and we're suddenly going,
See, I have a thing with Sam Means, like every time he played a set, it's like, man, you guys sound like fucking shit. So that's how he knew I was being serious. They sounded pretty good that night.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, like with making friends and the things. There's certain things you can joke about, like, if it's a band I've never seen, I'm not going to walk over and be like, dude, I've heard executions go better than that. Yeah. Then they're going to be like, did we sound bad or... But like...
with me, I'm always my own, like... Anytime I play live, like, I'm always my own worst critic.
Oh,
like,
same
and it's
here.
like, I've had shows where people are like, that was awesome, and I got off stage, and I'm like, God, I thought I sucked.
I missed. That's why it's always nice having those people who are like, they're the straight shooters, like, hey, how did we sound? And they're going to be, hey, you could have done a little bit better on this one. You sounded a little sloppy on your solo on this one. But it's more of... They're not trying to tear you down. It's more trying to build you up. And then you're like, okay, need to work on this, need to work on this. And the next time you come out and they're like, because they'll be paying attention. It's like, okay, you ready? All right. And then you'll shred that part and it's like.
See, one cool thing is even though I'm like almost 40, my dad, who's in his 70s, is still like my number one fan of anything I do musically.
Who is also our getaway guy.
He's our getaway guy.
Just in case things went sour.
He actually rode up here with us. But anyway, no, like he's always been, my biggest supporter of anything I do musically. He was when I first started into music, he was like the roadie. He'd drive all of us to shows and stuff. And he will always shoot me straight. Like, if I screw up during a show or whatever, like, he won't do it in a mean way. But he'll be like, yeah, you couldn't hear your guitar. Or, yeah, like, your vocals were real muddy. You couldn't hear what you were saying. Okay, thanks, Dad. Like, he'll shoot me straight. But that's one thing I respect about him too. And I mean, how cool is that? That like, you know, I'm in my almost 40, and my dad is like in his mid-70s, and he still comes to all the shows and rocks out. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
There's a couple people that I know that are like that. Metal Mom from here in Salina.
Yeah, Metal Mom.
Jody. She goes by, like, we did her, when I was still in Swept Aside, we did her 50th birthday party.
That's cool.
And I don't know how old she is. I know she's at least mid-60s. But she's still, every show, like, the Christmas shows here in town, she's still going to, like, Shinedown, and, like, she still goes and hits up concerts regularly, so... But then I've also asked her about bands that she's seen. She's like, oh yeah, I used to hang out with this band, and I met this person. She's like, I hung out with Robert Plant, and he gave me this piece of advice. I'm like, oh, you gotta hang out with Robert Plant. Jerk. And she goes, just because you weren't born doesn't mean you could be mean. Okay, I can validate that point, but it still sucks that you got to hang out with like all these legends and see all these bands when they were in their prime, and I'm... not there yet.
I actually had, like, I tell my daughter these stories because I actually had my first concert experience was freaking amazing because I was 15. And so it was in Wichita. It was, so the tour was POD, Project 86, and then there was this band opening who nobody had heard about yet, which was called Linkin Park. And, like, nobody had heard of them yet. And, like, they got on stage, and they killed it. Well, this was before Hybrid Theory had even come out. And,
you're looking like...
This is early 2000, yeah. And this was Linkin Park's second tour. And so, me and my friends that I was at the show with, they're like, oh, let's go. Because they were, like any other band starting out, they were hanging out at their merch table and whatever. So they just hung out there all night, and after a while the crowd died down, and we were hanging out back there at their merch table just shooting the shit with them. So it's like, dude, my first concert ever, I watched POD's set with Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was my first concert. And it's like you're so spoiled after that because it's like you meet some other bands and you learn that, like, there's a lot of them that are kind of dickheads. Some of them.
Yeah.
Like, Linkin Park was super nice dudes.
But it's also nice. It's always fun seeing bands when they're out on tour for the first few times or before they get that huge thing. Because Linkin Park now couldn't go hang out at the merch table. They get mobbed.
No.
But it's cool where it's like, different stories of hearing bands.
Yeah, and that's why it's cool to go out and support, like, a lot of these bands. And that's what you tell people, you know, a lot of these bands that are smaller.
Well, you never
could blow up, and you could have the story. Hey, I knew them before, you know.
That's kind of happened with me with the Hailstorm. Like, before they blew up, they played the Cotillion, and I was literally standing next to Lizzie Hale. I had no idea who she was. I just seen this short goth chick, like, amping up. I'm like, what's this chick's problem?
And Lizzie Hale.
And then she got on stage and just fucking ripped it. I was like,
I saw Hailstorm, man. Lizzie Hale is, like, amazing. Like, her voice too, like, just spot on.
I want to say this is probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been about the time where they really started to kind of... Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always the fun thing too, is, like, there's always that meme where it's like, I think it's the guy from Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine is in front of Tool doing, like, this bar set, and he's standing right there, and it's like, you got Tool, who is a huge band, massively influential on a lot of people on different levels, and then you've got Rage Against the Machine, who is a huge band and very influential on different levels, and they're in a bar. Or like Slipknot
Yeah.
when they said they played Kansas City one time for 9 people, not including the people that were with them. And it's like, dude, just to be at that show, like, would have been. But yeah, it's a big thing about supporting the local bands because it's
that's
you
my
said,
daughter's.
you get those,
That's my daughter's favorite band, Slipknot.
I saw them in 2004, right after the Iowa came out.
I saw them when they were first kind of getting. It was like, so they opened, and I think it was Coal Chamber was the headliner. And I think the rest of the bill was Spineshank and Slipknot. And
That's still a pretty impressive.
Slipknot, yeah. And this was like Coal Chamber was headlining, so Slipknot was just kind of fairly new at that point, and like I remember seeing them, and like it wasn't so much their sound, but my God, those dudes are crazy on stage, and it's like man, it just the energy of that show was unlike it. I think that's why they got so big. Nobody had ever seen anything
that's what we
that
need to do.
crazy.
We need to get a keg guy.
Yeah, and I need to start wearing a mask.
I need to, but for other reasons.
And it's always that's always the one thing that's because like the Blue Goat used to have all kinds of shows that you'd see. Like I saw Soulfly, 36 Crazy Fists, Walls of Jericho.
You know, it's funny if you Google Absent Saints, 36 Crazy Fists always pops up.
It's because they have a song called Absent Were the Saints, which is kind of where I took the name from a little bit. Maybe not.
Dang. Well, I had a riff idea for a song called 35 Lunatic
30, yeah.
So I better
there you go. Better drop that one next.
Yeah. 35 Lunatic Hands.
Well, and also, dude, Brock Lindo from 36 Crazy Fists is also a huge hockey fan, which, you know, I grew up playing hockey.
That's Maple Soccer, right?
Yeah, there we go. He Maple Soccer. and also, like, we're fans of the same team. He's a huge Philadelphia Flyers fan, too. So, like, I loved their music, but I like it, too, that, you know, hockey fans.
You said you're a Flyers fan?
I'm a Flyers fan, yeah.
All right. Well, my niece is trying to get into hockey, and she was wanting me to pick a team. I don't know shit about
Flyers.
hockey, so
Flyers.
maybe I'll go with
I know they fight.
Black and orange.
Yeah.
Well, they used to. Now they're
They got all the rules and stipulations.
Yeah.
There's still some codes in there. That
They just broke now.
Broad Street Bullies back in the 70s.
I went to one hockey game or match or whatever they called it, and I was so pissed at the end of it because I didn't get to see a fight.
Well, that's hockey now. If you would have gone pre-2012.
This was like, oh God, what was it? It was in Topeka.
Oh,
I think I might have been in middle school, maybe a freshman in high
was
school.
that the
so it was
Scarecrows?
Like, I don't know. It was like
Scarecrows.
1998. There's been a whole lot of drugs and alcohol.
Topeka
since then.
Scarecrows, yeah. So
If it's before the second tower fell, he doesn't remember.
there we go. I'm gonna have to head out here pretty good. My family's checking in on me.
Oh, shit.
Well, we shall go ahead and conclude this interview. I appreciate the time, guys, for coming up here and.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thank
taking the
you.
time to hang out and talk with us a little bit.
Yeah,
So.
I really appreciate you pretending to like our music so much.
We do.
Thank God.